had his 80th birthday last week. And I think that's something to mark as a milestone and offer our birthday congratulations from council. And I would ask you to sing, but I don't know that Councillor Baswick would want to hear us sing. So I'd like to go around the table and just have everybody turn off their mics and wish Councillor Baswick a happy birthday. You don't have to, but I think. Next.
What was that? Happy birthday 3 days late?
Yeah.
Happy belated.
Any more, John?
Councillor Cuthers? Who am I missing on my screen? That's it. I guess Councillor Cuthers, he's saying it.
My volume wasn't on, so okay. I'm glad you're staying ahead of me, John. Thank you.
I hope you had a great day. That's a huge, that's a wonderful milestone.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
All right, I will have a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think it's important before we adopt the agenda to determine exactly what agenda we're working with. And I know there were some agenda adjustments that came out late this afternoon, and I would like to suggest that the agenda that we be working with for the business today be the one that we had in our hands at noon today. And I will make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
And drop off. I haven't seen any.
Just a note on that. So that's not the agenda that's publicly posted, and that's so you would have to have a motion to revise the agenda if you would like to do that. It's just the one revision with 7.12 that's on there with that information there.
I would agree with that. I haven't seen anything, and we had a version last night I opened it at 10:30, I think, and then another one today at noon, and then another one at 3:30. So I haven't even looked at anything new today. I've been busy all day, so I would think that's fair.
That additional information was in response to council comments on the draft agenda that went out. So that was trying to provide that additional information that was referred to.
Oh. Yeah, I thought that we responded. I was fine with what was answered on Monday, so I'd be happy with that amendment based on the fact that I haven't had time to look at anything new.
So just for clarification, the business I have right now, it goes to 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Is there something beyond that?
We removed 7.12.
There's a 7.12.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to add one to the agenda, if I may. And I'd like to move 9.7 from 9.7 and correspondence and information up to business at 7.12.
In response to all the letters received?
Yes.
Because there was a bunch of letters in the past few days, I believe. So yes. remove 7.12, the operating budget, and add 7.12, or replace it with letters from residents on credit card application fee waiver.
Yes, please.
Is that what
yes, please.
Your motion is?
Yes, please.
All right. Is there anything else? All right. If there's nothing else, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we have our auditors here that have been working so hard for the town. And that is BDO Canada LLP. And I'm sorry, I don't know who's here representing. So Ethan, maybe you could introduce them for me, or Amanda.
Sure, yeah, I can.
I'll have Amanda do that.
Okay.
So I'm happy to welcome tonight. We have two representatives from BDO. We have Alan Litster. He's the partner on our file, and Irina Sinner, and she is, are you the manager?
She is.
Manager. So I will turn it over to you two, and thanks for being here tonight.
No problem.
And we should welcome. Yeah, I just wanted to welcome you, and I do recognize you from last year. I'm sorry. And you've probably been here all 3 years with us, or 4 now.
Yeah,
so,
I have, yeah.
Welcome back.
Yes,
and I apologize.
No worries. This is the second year virtual, though. So
yes,
it's great that you recognize me.
Yeah,
the camera adds 10 pounds or 12, or I don't know. So,
hopefully not just our heads.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is, like we do every year, is kind of do a review of the statements. It's going to be really kind of a high level type of review. I'm going to go through the audit report first. Then Irene is just going to take some time to go through some of the numbers, just sort of like really quickly at a high level. Just to encourage everybody as we go here, if you've got questions, just jump in and ask as we go. So assuming you guys have the package financial statements, I'm going to just start on the independent auditor's report itself. It's the 2-page report that we provide. And that's sort of the basis of the audit itself. And right at the top is the most important part, is the opinion. And our opinion is what we refer to as a clean opinion. These statements are in accordance with public sector accounting standards. So everything is in line with those standards. So everything's great that way. The other parts of the report is the basis of our opinion. We base we perform our audit through generally accepted auditing standards. That kind of drives how we perform our audit, and to gain that sufficient evidence to support that opinion. The other part to the statements or to the report is the responsibility management and those charged with governance, which is the council, of course. These are your financial statements. We're just reporting on those financial statements, of course. And the final part of the report is the auditor's responsibility, and we take up a page and a half of the report here. But basically, it just identifies how we kind of approach the audit itself. We identify those risks in the financial statements where we want to look at. We look at the internal controls to help design test those risk areas. We evaluate the accounting policies used by the town. We evaluate the overall going concern of the town as well. Then we also look at the overall structure and presentation of the financial statements to help us determine our opinion on the statements. But overall, in summary, it's a clean report, and we are within the standards. So any questions on the audit report itself before I turn it over to Irina? All right, Irina, I've warmed them up for you.
Thank you.
So she's going to just do a high-level approach here. So way to go, Irina.
Can I share my screen so you guys can see the numbers that I'm talking about? Or
Sure, we can give you that access.
Okay.
1 second here. Okay, you should be good to go.
Okay. Can you guys see the statements here?
Yes.
Okay.
It is. You might have to zoom in a little bit.
Yes, especially for people with eyesight like mine.
Like this? Okay, so I'll start off with the consolidated statement of financial position. So this is our balance sheet. A few things that I want to point out in here is, so there's a 1.5 increase.
Oh, sorry, Irina.
I think it's not moving yet.
We're seeing the report.
So if I click around on it, no, you can't see it.
Is it moving on your? Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go. It takes a second.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there's a $1.5 million increase in cash. This goes hand in hand with the increase in deferred revenue. And we can also see an increase in AP and a decrease in AR. So that kind of all plays into the increase in cash. The increase in deferred revenue, that's the MSI grant and the MSP grant that hasn't been used at the end of the year. A few things to note is the the taxes receivable has increased a little bit. This is due to COVID. Of course, people are a bit slower in paying the taxes. Scrolling down a little bit, another decrease that's significant is the long-term debt. This is about $500,000 decrease. This is again just like regular payments done on the debt. For tangible capital assets, we can also see an increase. There has been additions in roads and also a fire truck. This is again offset by a $2 million in amortization. And then we can also see another increase that's in the prepaid expenses, about $300,000, and that's in a deposit for another fire truck, as you can see in here. And I'll scroll down and start talking about the consolidated statement of operations. So this one is the income statement. It's from January 1st up until December 31st. A few things that I want to point out in here is so the taxes, they have lowered from the previous year, but they are in line with the budget. Another thing is the sales and user fees. It has decreased from the budget in the year, about 1.2 million. Sorry, 800, and that is part of the contributed asset. We split it out below here, but the budgeted amount is actually up here. So that's why there's a big difference. There was also a lot sale that was budgeted that didn't happen, and that accounts for about 390,000. And then also a lot of those, like the arena was closed, so there wasn't any revenue coming in from that. So there was a lot that came in play here. Of course, a lot due to COVID. So like that. And then for the expenditures, everything is pretty close to budget. The only thing is, again, the recreation, parks and culture, and planning and development. Again, due to COVID, a lot has decreased in the year, but yeah. And that all brings us down to 666,000 in excess of revenue over expenditures. And sorry, can you guys still see that? It kind of blinked out for a second. Okay. And so the government transfers, again, it has increased a little bit. Sorry, it increased from the previous year, but it has decreased from the budget. That's again that MSI grant and a MSP grant that were deferred in the year. So that all brings us down to the accumulated surplus of the year, which is around 66 million. And then I'll bring it down to page.
Sorry, actually, before you go, Irina, is there any questions on those first two statements? No? Okay.
We're good. So I'll bring it down to page 21. And I'll make it a little smaller so you can see. And this is so the accumulated surplus. It breaks it down into unrestricted surplus, restricted surplus, and equity and tangible capital asset. As you can see, we have our acquisitions, our amortization, that all flows into equity and tangible capital assets. An amount was transferred into restricted surplus. If you want to see what's in the restricted surplus, you can go to the page above it, and that gives you a breakdown of what's included in restricted surplus. And then another thing I want to point out is on the income statement, you can see that the budget actually doesn't balance to zero, and I know you guys have budgeted down to zero, so I'll bring it down to page, I believe it's 24, and this is our budget note. So you can see that it was originally at zero. There are a few things that were not budgeted for, such as the payments on debt, a little bit of amortization, and some transfers to and from reserves. And that brings us down to 2.6 million of expenditures over revenue over expenditures. And that brings us back down to our income statement.
Yeah, for that budget note, it's just a reconciliation of the accounting to the budget that you guys have approved in the past. So it's just the big thing in ours is the amortization and the transfers, things like that. Like the amortization's in there, but the transfers aren't in the actual operating statement. Those are actually in the surplus side of things. So.
Does anybody have any questions?
About the whole thing, or
just like if you want
anything you want,
or any notes, something you saw.
I'm trying. I should have wrote the pages down, but when we go to the debentures on the list, can you find those?
At note 9,
17 or 18 page.
Page 14 on the statements themselves.
Oh, page 14.
I think you want to look at the long-term debt. I think it was.
No, look at the list of debentures, like the year they're the year they on page 14.
Page 14, yeah.
Okay, so is there a reason that we can't list what those are for, or is that common that we would list what the debentures are for? Because historically, I mean, if they're a long time ago, a lot of current council wouldn't know what those debentures are, and I don't know that it matters, but it's of interest to me. So is that something that in audits would be done?
Typically, we just have the where they're from. I mean, this is kind of the terms of the loan, things of that nature. We don't typically identify the specific use necessarily, but that's a great point. I mean, it's definitely something that we could maybe add to it, possibly. Like, what are you thinking as far as the description goes?
Well, you have Canadian Minerals there, and we understand what that is.
Yep.
Because that's over on Shant's land there. So what would, what is the debenture that's maturing in 2021? So what have we paid off? We paid off our pool a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting, but it wasn't listed. It's kind of a thing to celebrate sometimes too, that you paid off.
Absolutely.
We could just ask Amanda as well, but
and I might jump in there, Alan, and just suggest that the way it's listed on the financial statements is in accordance with the public sector accounting standards. But the information you're requesting, Mayor Hunter, that can be brought back in a different manner outside of the financial statements to provide further information on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's better to have, Amanda's correct. I mean, we have to have those standards as far as the disclosure goes, and you don't want to get them too wordy as well, I guess, right? So a separate report would be better for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I have another question. And I did look at our other audits too, and maybe I've never asked or caught this before. On page 28, it says this isn't prepared on a basis consistent with that used to report actual results according to the PSAS.
Yep.
So what, and it requires full accrual. So what does that mean?
Typically, it's all related to sort of your amortization. You guys actually budget for a bit of amortization, but a lot of towns and municipalities don't. So that's one of the purposes for this budget reconciliation, so you can actually see some of those differences as well, right? So that's why we have that in there.
Okay. And the inventory for resale. There's only 2 items listed, the high school and one property on Sean's. Is that because of the years? And you'll have to find out. So one of them says DHS, or the high school land, So it looks like there's only one property really listed, and the inventory is for resale. So if they're all eligible for resale.
So which ones are you referring to?
Well, there's 3 more lots in Shant's Crossing from what I know.
So Shant's is, sorry if I could jump in.
No, go ahead, absolutely.
That the inventory value in accordance with public sector standards is listed there for all of Shant's. So the Shant's Crossing line would cover all of Shant's that's for sale.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the total amount for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
that's
then
a good deal.
It's what?
Well,
Sorry?
it's presented as the lower of
Cost or value. Like basically what we do is that whenever you have sorry, Amanda, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So anytime you have an inventory amount like that, what we assess is based on cost, is typically what you all these statements are based on cost, but what we do is look at value as well. So if the value had dipped below that cost amount, we would write it down to that. But in this case, we don't because of the cost is less than the value. So at this point, if that's what you're
Okay.
meaning.
Well, and it's a unique situation. That's why there's more to the note, because it's a town-owned subdivision. So the capital assets would be part of our tangible capital assets.
Absolutely.
But the inventory is part of this. That's why there's like the section of the note.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah. So if you like the way Amanda's describing is the stuff that's retained by the town is basically a capital asset. And on the balance sheet, you'll see if we just flip back to the balance sheet, Irina, you can kind of see the classifications of them, right? Basically, it's a financial asset or non-financial asset. So when you have an inventory item that's for sale, it's actually more of a liquid thing, obviously. So therefore, you'll see it. That's why you see it up in these financial assets, inventory held for resale. If the other part of that is down below the non-financial assets, right? So that's the stuff that's retained. It's capital and will be retained by the town.
Okay, I see. Thank you. Are there any other questions? I am 2, 4. I can't see Councillor Crothers, so if anybody sees his hand up while the screen's up, then let me know.
I don't see any hands up.
All right, thanks, Amanda. Okay, so if there's no other questions,
awesome.
I think we'll let Alan and Irina off easy again.
Excellent. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for your work and thanks for the presentation.
No problem. Before we go, I just want to thank Amanda and her team, obviously, for all their help. And I just, in this new world we live in right now, with COVID, it's always a little more difficult to get things done. But we really appreciate the cooperation that her and her team has really helped with.
So I take it you weren't on site much or at all?
I wasn't myself. I don't know. I think we tried to do everything remotely. I don't know if we went out on site, did we, Irina?
We tried, but then restrictions. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like what. That's the thing is we're really trying to limit that stuff, obviously. So and that's really goes to show the cooperation that's needed to do this, right? So.
Well, that's good. I'm glad it went well.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
All right. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye now.
And is there a motion here? There's a motion here. I did thank them, so you can make a motion that we thanked them. Councillor Moore.
Yes. I think I'm going to have it on the record that we thank the representatives from BDO LLP for their presentation on the 2020 audited financial statements.
All right, is there any other discussion on that? I will change my view and call the vote. I'll call the vote then. All in favor? I see everybody now. That's carried. Okay, and I believe we have Helen Hafke here, who is here on behalf of the Disbury and District Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for being here, Helen. And I hear you've done a lot of work for the Chamber lately, and you're a busy woman. So I'll give you the floor to present the Chamber's view on how our businesses and our taxes all flow together.
I'm not sure I can give you that opinion. But thank you for the opportunity to come tonight and just share with you what's happening at the Chamber this year. As with most businesses, the Chamber has been hit hard with COVID. We went from an $80,000+ budget to a $10,000 budget this year, so we took a huge drop in revenue, which means that our budget is absolutely bare bones. We basically just budgeted straight operating costs. And that was based on membership numbers from last year, and our membership is down over 20% so far this year. So thank goodness for government grants, because of those we were able to continue the year. Otherwise, we would have been having to make some really tough decisions. But we also have a very dynamic board. We have some fantastic new members this year, and they've added a breath of fresh air to some of us. It's nice to see them come on board and sort of just keep us moving forward and keep us moving positively in that direction. So I really appreciate those that are on our board and everybody that commits their time to being there. And in saying thank you, I also want to thank the town for their action in getting the patios moving forward. I know it hasn't been an easy move, but I know our businesses, our members, and our food services people are just, like you said, have just been bounding. We released our Opus 21 map, and we keep updating it. We have like 14 or 15 restaurants with patio takeout or curbside service. So that's a great number to see in Didsbury. And yes, they all seem to be visited by somebody every day. So seems like every time I walk by Brooks, there's somebody sitting out on her patio under the heaters. So that's exciting to see. So thank you for that. I know it was a bit of frustration on both sides trying to get that moving forward, but it has gone forward and things are really happening. So we're looking forward to continuing to build our relationship with the town and just have that open dialogue going. And it's been really positive the last year, and we just really look forward to that continuing to strengthen in the coming year. Sorry, I have to read my notes. So in support, supporting town business, so talking of the Opus 21 map, we wondered if there was an opportunity for the town to share that map link on the town site, because a lot of people will visit the town site looking for someplace as well. And if so, then I very gladly share that link with the town, because it's been really positive. We've had a huge response to our Opus thing on our Facebook and our social media. The first day we posted the map, we had over 1,500 hits. So it was very exciting to see people were really looking for these places and ways to support our local community. So yes, we are looking for new ways. We are also having to be innovative as a chamber on how we can support our businesses more. We've been attending more and more webinars, not only provincially. We've been attending a lot of, I've been at the Cape ones, not only for the DDAC committee, but for the chamber. So there's the Cape group, there's the Alberta Chamber of Commerce. We attend regular webinars from them, as well as the Canadian Chamber. So we are getting a lot of information coming through that I try to filter through. Some of it's a little overwhelming some weeks, because you sort of end up spending hours in webinars going, no, I can't take any more. For the summer, normally people take time off over the summer, not us as a chamber. We have a new drive going on for marketing, and we're also trying to look at a new membership drive for over the summer to help try and improve our numbers and get more of the local small business, home-based business people to come out from, not from hiding, but they seem to be in the shadow sometimes because they are just a single person, and try and incorporate them into the chamber some more and to get them some marketing and some exposure. So those are the things we're looking forward to in the next year. And again, thank you for the opportunity to come and do this and just share with you what we're going on. If you have any questions, I will try and answer them for you.
Great. Are there any questions? I know that my opening was a bit about the budget, because your president, Kyle Turner, and I talked about that they would be offering some thoughts on the business sector. So we'll still look forward to that, I'm sure. And maybe Kyle's going to do that. So, but we all appreciate the update on the chamber, and the sentiment's the same among our council, that we're very proud of the relationship we've built and continue to build with to strengthen it. I don't think it's building, it's strengthening, really, and we appreciate that. And I think it has been a great 3.5 years so far with the board, and very excited for this new board too. And like you said, that breath of fresh air sometimes. And gee, Helen, some of the ideas that you have, that they're amazing, and I applaud you every time I look at your social media, because it's fantastic. And that Opus was a really brilliant idea. Yeah. So I think Ethan and Amanda took down the notes that they'd like to share that on the town website. So they'll be in touch, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here. Unless there's any other questions, so I don't think there is, but yeah. Good. So let's have a motion for that too, just to thank the Chamber for the presentation. Thank you, Councillor Windsor.
I'll make that motion to move that council thank Helen for her update on the chamber and what they're doing.
All right, any other comments? Call the vote, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we have the minutes of the April 13th, 2021 regular council meeting. A motion as amended, I think. I just had a few notes. If someone make the motion to accept as amended. Councillor Windsor?
Mayor Hunter, I'll make that motion to accept the minutes of the April 13, 2021 regular council meeting minutes as amended.
Okay, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking for amendments is 164, 21. The last sentence, it says road rehabilitation, or if not possible, the remaining 60,000. It isn't to be used. I think it's to be remain in reserves, because it is in reserves. So the motion just should have finished it. If that's not possible, it'll remain in reserves. Right? Okay. And 175, 21. It should say the intentions for the town office, the previous town, the old town office space, not intentions for the library. We're talking about the office space, the building, the town office building. So if that amendment is suitable, then we have a motion to accept as amended. Any comments? I will call the vote. All in favor? Oh, Councillor, did you vote, Councillor Pogmiller, or are we going to talk?
No, I wanted some clarification on, I made that motion 164, and what's wrong with it?
Well, it says that it will be used. I got to go back to find it again. It said, if not possible, the remaining 60,000 be used for economic development, but it's remaining in the reserve. It's what it's doing, because it wasn't taken out yet. And so when that motion, it's just the wording that it remain in reserves.
So that's well, mine reads different than what yours is.
No, that's the amendment I make, and it says remaining 60,000 be used for economic development, but it is in the economic development reserve, so it just should remain there. If it's in that reserve, that is already what it's used for. And maybe it's semantics with me. If you don't accept the amendments, then just say so.
No,
I don't think there's anything wrong with what there is. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you on that.
Well, it's going to be used for I'm just trying to clarify it is already in the reserve. So it's going to be used for economic development, so it just should say it will remain there. And then when future motions come, it'll reallocate it. That's the clarification. When I read it, that was my interpretation. And because it was a new motion, and we're always asking Luana to try to capture everything. And it doesn't matter if everybody's fine leaving it as it is. I would draw that amendment and leave 175.21. It's just logistics and the wording to me that makes. So 175.21 is the amendment I will present. I will call the vote then. All in favor? Opposed? All right. That's carried. We'll have item 6.1, the supplemental assessment.
Excuse me, Mayor, I didn't see Mel Carruthers vote on that one. Sorry.
I did. Thought I did. I saw 6 hands go up.
Yeah.
So yeah. Councillor Carruthers, you can clarify if you put your hand up in favor.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 6.1, supplemental assessment bylaw, second and third reading. And I believe the chairperson of that committee will speak to that. And that is Councillor Moore.
Thank you. As we've already seen this before in our other council meeting I think it says, it doesn't say when it is, but in any case, the supplementary assessment bylaw needs to be passed only if it's passed before May 1st of that year. And since this is our last council meeting, I would ask that we pass second and third readings. And it is a standard supplementable assessment bylaw, and I would like if one of the other committee members, either Councillor Carruthers or Councillor Windsor, would make the 2 motions that are required for passing this bylaw. Councillor Carruthers?
Okay, Councillor Carruthers, you want to make that first motion for second reading?
Let's get my sound on.
It is, I can hear you. Oh, you turned it off now. Oops. There we go.
Move to grant second reading to supplemental assessment bylaw 2020-105, and that council move.
That's good, that one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any comments or discussion on this from any of the committee or any other Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. So council knows, the only change that has been made to this since the first reading was in red as the last whereas, and it was shall be prepared was added to the end of that note. And that's the only change that's made to this since the first reading.
Okay. Any other comments? I will call the vote then on the second reading. All in favor? Carried. And Councillor Carruthers, you want to do the third?
Yeah, that council move to grant a third and final reading to the supplemental assessment bylaw 2020-105.
All right. Any final comments? I'll call the vote then. All in favor of the third reading? That's carried. Thank you for that. Item 7.1, the 2020 audited financial statements. Councillor Engel.
I move that council approve the 2020 audited financial statements as presented.
All right. Any discussion? We'll call a vote then. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you to Amanda and your department for all your work on that. And another clean audit. We have item 7.2, write off uncollectible accounts. Councillor Engel?
I move that council authorize administration to write off the outstanding amounts receivable in the amount of $7,187.22 Canadian.
All right, are there any questions? I like that. That's important. I have a question. Amanda, this is the last adjustment, and I'll ask Ethan, of course, and he'll either defer it or answer it. The last adjustment from the government that they're making to this is a GPOT issue. So this is the last adjustment they're making, and now we are cautiously optimistic that it'll stay that way.
Yeah, I'll defer to Amanda.
Okay.
Yes, in the last adjustment, I understand it's going to be 50% going forward, 50% of the total that they will pay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, like we don't anticipate it's going to drop any more.
No, I don't anticipate that. However, they do tell us to bill the full amount and they'll pay half of it. So we do have to keep each year bringing it forward to be written off.
Right. Okay, well, at least you're being upfront and honest about it and transparent. So, are there any other questions on this? I have to ask, approximately 50% of the original balance. So could we maybe be more assured that 50% of the balance was or was it a penny out or something different? So the total.
Well, sorry.
The remaining balance is $1,714.36. So that would have been half if really that was paid. I guess I'm just approximately, we don't know what was paid.
And Ethan, do you want me to respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So the original balance, 50%. So over time, there was penalties assessed on it. So it was actually a little bit more than 50% of the original balance. It was a rounded number, and then a little bit of penalties that weren't collected as well.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Carried. We have item 7.3, Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I will move that council rescind resolution number 164-21.
Now, what motion is that?
That is the motion that was made regarding the signage project.
Okay.
And it's actually the motion is actually in our background of the agenda.
What number is that?
164-21.
Okay. So the motion is to rescind that, and I did read that earlier. So I'm your reasoning for this motion, or you want to speak to that motion?
Yes, if I may, please. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. When this motion was made back on the 13th of April, pardon me, there was no supporting document that was provided. There was nothing no request had been made to do this, to remove this, that administration was aware of or that council was aware of. The project was a capital budget item, and if it goes this way, it's probably a repair and maintenance, which puts it onto the operating budget rather than the capital budget. And so that would mean that the $10,000 would have been right on the shoulders of taxpayers. There was no indication as to whether or not whatever renovation was going to be done would be able to be done for $10,000. There was just no information that supported that motion at all. And now with this agenda and subsequent letters that we received, we got 20 letters supporting the original signage project. And if you use a general rule of thumb that's used in politics where one letter represents 50 people, then that's a fair number of residents that have made expression that they liked the original sign project. The other thing about this is that the council had previously assigned this to the Strategic Planning Committee to look into this project and the placement of the second sign. And the Strategic Planning Committee was in the process of investigating that and looking at the possibilities and other ramifications and options that were available to council that the Strategic Planning Committee would have brought back to council for council's consideration. And that was circumvented by this motion. And so there was already energies and resources put into that project and investigating those things about that project that were circumvented by this motion. So I'm suggesting that this motion be rescinded so it goes back to the original motion. It is back on the capital budget. It's back to the Strategic Planning Committee for the committee to bring forward some recommendations to council with regard to this signage project.
All right, other comments? Councillor Moore?
I appreciate having this conversation. And I really don't know what's been said on social media, but I do talk to residents. And I do know that there is not a clear consensus either among residents or council with regard to what to do with the old welcome sign that was replaced near our town boundary at considerable cost by the previous council. It's also a fact that we have not determined what any digital signs would look like or where they would be located. But there's no question that council is in favor of digital signs eventually when we have all of the information and the design and everything. Another fact we didn't have is that the Zion Church plans to install a digital sign, and there may be opportunities for coordination. I agree with Katrina and her comments, original comments, going ahead with anything regarding the signs, digital or stationary, right now is not an urgent requirement. Candidates for council will hear, hopefully in person by then, from a broader range of residents about what is important to them. Our 2020 budget has plenty in it, absorbing the full impact of the $428,208 net RCMP cost. So I will be voting against this, and I would ask to, if it's defeated, to totally remove this $70,000 sign item and address it in 2022 with more complete information.
Thanks, Councillor Moore. Councillor Pogmiller?
Yes, thank you. And I totally concur with Councillor Moore. I really welcome the idea that the Zion Church is planning on a digital sign, and I would encourage that we collaborate with them. I also think that aside from social media and so on, there is a lot of people that think putting up and spending this kind of money on a sign at this juncture is not very prudent. They would much rather have that money expended on repair of roads and so on. And we do have a road repair going on right now on 23rd that I believe, I don't know if it's covered, if those kind of things are covered in our budget, but I think that was an unforeseen expense. And, you know, quite frankly, I think that if we put this whole thing on hold until the next council, and by then we could have people arrange to look into this a little bit more. And I think that money could be spent a lot more prudently this year on repairing roads and so on. And I realize it's in an economic development fund or whatever, but that 70,000 could go there very easily. And I concur with our Councillor Moore. I'm not going to be voting for this, and I'm going to request a recorded.
Anyone else? Councillor Beswick? And then Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I have to agree with Councillor Moore and Councillor Poggemiller. It's just, it's not that urgent an item. It's something that can be done later. The money can, in my opinion, the money can be better well spent. We have enough information at the moment, and I think that more information will come with the either the next council or in the future. So I can't vote for this. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Crothers? I'm sorry. Well, Councillor Crothers, you've already spoke, Councillor Windsor. So Councillor Crothers and Councillor Engel, and then Councillor Windsor.
Oh,
Can you unmute him, Amanda? There you go. Councillor Crothers?
thank you. I'd just like to reiterate that I support Councillor Moore and Pogmiller. This is not the time to spend this. Let's have the next council have a long, hard look at it. The other thing with the access or the purchase of AG and the change of ownership, that plot of land at the very north west corner of town is going to be vacant. Possibly we could use it as MR and be a perfect place for a high density sign. There'd be enough traffic in there to probably generate 20 to 30,000 vehicles a year. So let's look at things that when we previously voted, we didn't have a clue what we were voting on. So I'd prefer to defer until we have more information. Thank you.
Councillor Engel?
I voted for this originally for the sign. I was in favor of it. I still am. I think what Bill said about taking it back to committee is the place that we would get the information that we need regarding the sign. That doesn't mean the sign is approved, but I would vote in favor of rescinding.
Okay. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think that it's important for everybody. Everybody's talking about doing more research on it. Well, if you don't rescind this motion, if you don't support my motion to rescind that 164-21 motion, then it is going forward as it states in that motion. And so there is no further research. There is no looking at it again. It's going to be going forward the way that motion reads in the background of your agenda. And I think that it's important that, yeah, maybe there are other people that I haven't heard any, but maybe there are other people who aren't happy about that. But we have 20 letters from residents who have gotten off their butt and put out the energy and written a letter to, or signed a letter or whatever, provided a direction to council. And I think that if council doesn't heed that, then they're not really necessarily responding to the people who are talking to council.
Okay. I would like to suggest that this is in council's strategic plan, if anybody has referenced our strategic plan that we put together. And it's on page 12. Improved signage, including research into digital signs, location, and policy. So when we start saying that we don't follow our strategic plan, then I guess no one, or I would interpret that not many of us are reading it and knowing what our direction is. So I'm going to have another motion come out of this in that we have an update for council on our strategic plan and where we're at with everything. This was a 2020 item that was obviously deferred because of the pandemic and the upheaval that resulted from that. I do want to reiterate that and Councillor Moore can attest to that too, that Craig Fox was looking into a variety of options for the signage and that was going to bring it back, and that the SPC cannot make a decision. They would have brought it to council for viewing. So that information was coming back to council when the committee got circumvented. So along with there's two motions sending it to SPC on January 26th and February 9th. There was another time that Councillor Pogmiller brought up to address the signage, and that was accepted as information on March 9th. And here we are that the Strategic Planning Committee had it in their work plan. Craig Fox was working on it, and the information would have come back to council. So to ask the next council to do it is undermining your very own strategic plan that we created. And I just want to bring mention to that maybe it's a good idea for us all to review our strategic plans. And if I'll have someone, we'll make a motion for me after all this is done, that we bring back the update on the strategic plan and where we're at with all of the projects that we identified in the past 3.5 years, where they're at. So I do support the motion still for the information. I'm very impressed with the level of interest in this that responded, and we just got one as late as, it came in 5:30. I printed off because it said sign on it. And I recognized the name. So sharing with the church, I don't know that that's even, that's the town generally taking turns with our information. It's a revenue generator. I will continue to support the sign initiative as it was at Strategic Planning Committee workload, and Craig Fox had already done work on it. Now, Ethan, I know I asked you if the level of work Craig had put into it already, and I don't know if you've got that answer or not.
No, we could certainly bring back some information on that if that's what council wants. It depends on how much of this, what direction council wants to give on that.
Okay, so I'm encouraging everyone to vote to rescind the motion and put it back in the Strategic Planning Committee's purview, which is where it should have stayed without being upended, and that they continue to work and bring back the information to council that they were working on, and then make an informed decision. And I've always said that at this table, that I won't make a decision without all the information in front of me, and that's why I voted against it last time, because there was absolutely no information other than a message from a group of Facebook people. So we do have the motion to rescind, motion 164-21, Councillor Windsor.
Yes, Mayor Hunter, I think Councillor Pogmiller already requested it, but I will reiterate that I would like a recorded vote on this, please.
Okay. All right, are there any other comments?
Could I just ask to have it explain what it is that we're voting on? So if we vote on to rescind that motion, then it goes back to the $70,000 in the capital budget the way we had it before, right?
That was being explored.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to the Strategic Planning Committee for the further investigation.
All right, I'll call the vote. Is that clear, Councillor Moore? Okay. Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that's defeated. So, Councillor, are there any other? There's Councillor Moore. You had mentioned you were going to remove the sign project totally, even from the operational budget.
I would like to hear what council thinks of that. It isn't that I want to have it removed forever, but I do not believe that we have the information we need to go ahead with doing it this year. And I don't think it's that urgent to do it right now. So I would I guess we'll just try it. We'll see what happens. I would move that council amend maybe I should have Councillor Pogmiller, since he had the original motion. I'm not sure how this should work, because since we didn't rescind his motion stands. and it is to keep the 10,000 and repair the sign. And so, Ethan, I would like to know from Ethan what the proper thing would be if that motion would be amended. Should it be Councillor Poggemiller, or should I do a different one?
But Ethan, too, I'll add to that, Councillor Moore, that this is now being diverted to the operational budget, and we all know that we've already asked for cuts to the operational budget. So if we continue with this, it's not in the operational budget. So maybe answer all that together, Ethan, because we haven't added it to the operational budget as far as I know. And if Dorothy get Councillor Moore get clarification on her question.
The principle of motions is, even though at times councillors will, as a courtesy, allow different members to make certain motions, that's more than as a courtesy. The principle is any council member on any issue can always make a motion, and aside from those courtesies that sometimes happen, and so there's no hard kind of fast rule on that. Councillor Moore, you're free to make a motion that you feel you'd like to make, as any other councillor.
Okay, and I would like to ask if, because that other motion was already made, whether we're rescinding that or amending it, or just putting a new motion that then invalidate that.
You can answer that, Ethan?
Yeah, so it just depends on what you would like to. So are you wanting to put forward a motion to remove the part of the previous direction about the 10,000? Is that the part you're wanting to remove out of the previous direction?
That's right.
So yeah, then a simple motion to that the 10,000 for the upgrade to the existing sign, that portion be that action no longer take place.
Okay, so that would be my motion then, that the 10,000 that would have been for the upgrades to the old sign no longer take place, and that item be removed.
So I think to clarify too, Councillor Moore, you're amending motion 16421 to say that?
If that no.
Sorry,
because the motion
that it not because the motion 164 has already been passed, so you can't amend the existing motion. But what she would be doing is adding on to it, adding further direction to curtail part of it. Okay,
could I rephrase it then? So further to motion number 16421, the $10,000 for upgrading will be put back into the economic development reserve as well.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yep, that makes sense, Councillor Moore.
Makes more sense.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other comments? All right, well, Councillor Windsor?
Yes, Mayor Hunter, could I have that motion read again for me so I can understand what we're actually voting on?
Luana, did you capture that, Luana?
Yes. So moved by Councillor Moore. Further to motion 16421, the council approved the 10,000 upgrade to the old town sign be removed from the operational budget and put back into the economic development reserve.
Is that right, Councillor Moore? Sound what you said? Okay. Councillor Baswick?
Just a question. Does that incorporate the other 60,000, or do we have to mention the total amount? Because this way it's just 10,000 going in. We still have 60,000 outstanding for signage, in my opinion. I need an answer, please.
Well, can I ask too, Councillor Moore, can you just, a friendly amendment to just say the entire 70,000 be returned to the Economic Development Reserve?
Would that make sense to everybody if we just say that? That the entire $70,000 referred to in motion 164-21 be returned to the Economic Development Reserve?
That would make sense to me.
Does that sound right to you, Councillor Miller?
I don't, it's written quite clearly. Like, I mean, you can do that if you want. I don't have a problem. I personally don't have a problem with it. But the initial motion that you made, as far as the 10,000 goes, is pretty clear. And it's also very clear in the motion that I made that 60,000 go back to economic development. So it's written right there. So, you know, I don't know what Ethan thinks of this, but I would just leave it as it is. And I would leave your motion as it is.
I don't mind making the whole thing go back though, because I think that is clearer to some.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense because then it's clear.
Yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that. That's fine.
Thank you. Luana, have you got my new motion?
It's simpler. Moved by Councillor Moore that the $70,000 noted in Resolution 164-21 be put back into the Economic Development Reserve.
Okay. I just have one more comment because I thought this was fantastic and I don't want the idea to be lost. So somewhere someone has to capture it. But the recent one on Erb Square in Purgatory, this lady that took the time to write said, how fantastic would that have been to have all the postcards going across that digital sign as a, you know, it's a worldwide event and we could have done those kinds of things with those signs. So I hope that that doesn't get lost and administration will keep these letters because there's some really good ideas in the ongoing messaging that could be offered. So we have a motion on the table to return all of the money to the reserve. And Councillor Pogmiller?
Yes, I would like a recorded vote on this as well.
Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I'm totally torn on this because essentially what we're doing then is we're abolishing the community signage project at all, which I don't agree with, and putting the money back into the reserves, and I guess for future use. So I'm torn because I don't agree that the original sign project should be abolished. So I'm torn as to how I'm supposed to vote on this.
Well, you have to vote the way you feel, and I'm very supportive of the community signage too, and to have seen the recommendations and then made a decision from there. So I'm supporting it. I won't vote for the money going back in because it is on our strategic plan and it is a reserve that was created for that purpose. So that's the reason I won't support it all going back in, and I supported the rescinding of the motion. So Councillor Engel?
So although I supported the rescinding of the motion, I will support that the money go back in, and we at some point have to bring signage back, but that can be done on a different day. So I think the money needs to be returned.
That is a very good observation that if we don't return it, that sign project stays out as it is. So I agree with that comment. Councillor Engel, you've altered my thought and my vote. Just for that, you're right. Otherwise, we have a sign that has to get fixed. That isn't what, obviously, I'm really, before we go, though, I do thank everybody that wrote those letters and took the time to follow the process and have their thoughts known. I think that's democracy there, and their voices are heard, and this council will vote on putting putting the money back in, and we hope that a future council revives this. So I will call the vote then. Councillor Moore's vote. All in favor? Opposed? Are you going to vote, Councillor Baswick? Okay. That's carried. All right, we have item 7.4, support for the 2021 census. Find it on my. Councillor Engel?
Motion?
Yes.
Okay. Be it solved, that's the first time I've used that in a motion, that the town of Didsbury Council supports the 2021 census and encourages all residents to complete their census questionnaire online at www.census.gc.ca. Accurate and complete census data supports programs and services that benefit our community.
So now did you just want to edit that to be a resolved?
Well, it said solved, and that's I had to use it.
If someone could solve that, they'd save a bunch of money on census takers.
Be it resolved.
Okay. I hope this is an easy one. Is there any discussion on it? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we have item 7.5. That the committee chair of the Performance Evaluation Committee will present the information, and I expect that someone from your committee will make the motion.
Okay, thank you. When we went over this, we came up with an idea of wanting to beautify the community at Christmas time. And one of the things that we know that we need is we need power to the poles that are on the main drive coming into town. And so what we did is we asked Craig to come up and do some research and find out what it would cost to do. He came back, and to do 20th Avenue, it's going to be approximately $52,000. The purchase of new decorations would be approximately $5,000 to $8,000, depending on the type of decorations that we use. So the cost per block along 20th Avenue is approximately $20,000. So the committee is recommending that we approve the installation of the electrical outlets to each light standard along 20th Avenue this year in 2021 for a cost of $52,000. The funding from Economic Development Reserve, and to utilize the existing wreaths that aren't illuminated as decorations for the 2021 Christmas season. And this project would have to be added to the 2021 operating budget. And there's currently $5,000 included in the 21 proposed operating budget, which the committee is recommending be used to purchase strings of white lights that can be wrapped around the existing wreaths and hung from the light standards. If the money is not fully used in the year, it could be put into a reserve fund to purchase or replace future Christmas decorations. So I'll just ask Kurt if he wants to make a motion to that effect.
Sure. I move that council approve the installation of electrical outlets to the light standard along 20th Avenue as part of the 2021 operating budget for up to $52,000, and that it be funded from the Economic Development Reserve, and that the decorating of these light standards be referred back to the Performance Evaluation Committee.
Are there any comments? Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. So I just want to clarify for in my own mind here, we have just said that we're not going to do a signage project that was in our strategic plan, and now we're going to do a project for $52,000 for another beautification program. Am I understanding that correctly?
Somebody on the committee can answer that.
Yes, we are. This has been a conversation around the council table for the last number of years, in my recollection, and longer discussion than any signage project. And I think that this would be really well suited to our community especially when you drive through other communities at Christmas time around the area.
Councillor Engel?
So this is probably something that I'm going to draw John in on this as well. This is something that was identified probably in year 2. I could be wrong on that. But the beautification at Christmas time has obviously been something that myself and Councillor Baswick have both been proponents of advancing it. And when the committee looked at this, we thought this was a great opportunity. We've got some new street lights coming in on the main street, and we're able to repurpose a bunch of decorations, and we can get the entire both sides of the street lit up doing this. And I am in favor of the Christmas decorations. I think I've been pretty vocal with that from day one.
Does that mean the $52,000 for plugins?
Pardon me?
Does that mean you're in favor of the $52,000 for plugins or for the decorations?
No, we need the plugins to light the decorations up. So I'm in favor of having the light standards energized.
Are there any other comments for Councillor Windsor?
I'm thinking that you're asking for more?
No, I didn't see your hand. You just started talking, so
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, in the last 2 years been pretty dismal for most communities, and anything that could be uplifting, and this certainly would be. You have to understand that we are repurposing a lot of the items in order to save revenue, and in light of these wreaths that we have suddenly found that are available to put up, and I think it's just, coming in from the four-way stop, and you see that lighted ribbon directing you to Didsbury is going to be absolutely outstanding and it'll be uplifting for the population, which will add enormously to our downtown lighting that we have. So it's, and we're not spending any more money. And in other words, we're using existing funds. We're not expanding on that at all, and repurposing where we can. So it's a positive expenditure, I figure. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Windsor.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. So if we proceed with this and do the plugins for $52,000 out of the Economic Development Reserve, then that pretty much circumvents any signage project to meet the strategic plan for an extended period of time, because there is also no money in the current operating budget to go to the Economic Development Reserve. So essentially that's going to leave somewhere in the neighborhood of about $20,000 left in that reserve for whatever we might be doing over the next 2 years, or at least 2 years, in economic development.
My recall on the whole conversation, I'm really not sure where the motion was to go and explore the use of the reserves for plugins. I think if we got a lot of letters and backlash from Facebook, a lot of letters for the sign and backlash from Facebook, I can't imagine $52,000 on plugins. And I just don't see a motion that said to explore that, and I don't know that committees go and explore things without being directed by council. So if that's what our committees are doing, is taking on projects that are of interest to them. And I think, Councillor Moore, you brought this up to our committee, and it's still an outstanding conversation that committees do things that are sent to them from council. So I just want to again refer to the strategic plan. And we have some outstanding items on our strategic plan. That one of them is a economic development and tourism master plan that could be used from that economic development reserve, our banner project. But if you look through the items, I could list them all, but economic development, that to me is listed in our strategic plan where that money would be go to. So if it can't be used for signage, I can't support it for plugins based just on it. And I remember the conversation being that we do this gradually in a gradual process. If there was a conversation at all, so 5,000 every year. And when we are not in a pandemic year, and we don't have a bunch of outstanding items on our strategic plan, that it all gets fit in a strategic, phased-in manner. So that's what I'll support is the strategic phased-in manner in our strategic plan and the process that council had set out. So I won't support 52,000. I like, your 5,000 that we already agreed that would go in there for the lights in a phased-in approach. And $52,000 for plugins is not my vote. Are there any other comments? Councillor Moore?
I'd just like to ask a question of the committee, if I might. Was there any discussion about doing pieces of it over a period of time, or are there barriers to doing that? Like, I really like the idea of having the enhanced lighting for Christmas, but I am a little struck by the amount. So if somebody could tell me that, I would really like to hear.
Councillor Pogmiller?
Okay, first of all, I want to clarify one thing. The committee did not take this on its own. This particular item was put on our agenda. Administration came to us with that because it has been an ongoing thing that has come up with council from time to time. So administration put it on our agenda, and we did a little bit of research on it. We asked Craig to do some research for us on it, and we came up with these suggestions. At no time did our committee go out of the realm, as the mayor is saying, and did something that we're not supposed to do. I want that very clear, because that is not what we did. And we were very adamant about staying on course, and we did stay on course. Now, as far as Councillor Moore's question goes, the $52,000 is a big bite, because that's the electrification of the light poles. Why on earth these light poles weren't electrified when they were put in, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5, whenever that was done, is beyond me, because that would have been an automatic, as far as I'm concerned, from my past experience when we did this thing in other communities that I've been at. So that's why the big bite. That's why we wanted it all done at once, because it's going to cost more over time when you do 5 poles a year or 10 poles a year. So this is why the big bite at this point in time. Furthermore, when this stuff came up to us as a committee, there was some suggestions given to us by administration that here's where we could do some of these things. Here's how we could alter some of the monies that was there, and we can go through that with you later here. I think it's coming up, and I can ask Ethan to go over the agenda that he gave us. And we took each item on its own, and we found the money. In fact, I think we came up with a $62,000 at the end of the day saving over all the monies that we found and that we could do with. So I beg to differ with the accusation, and I take offense a little bit to that accusation, Madam Mayor. We did not step out of line on doing this. I just want that very clear. Thank you.
Well, I don't think I still would like the question answered. Did you look into doing it? Like you stated that it will cost more if you do 5 or 6 a year. Did anybody explore that? And have you explored LED lighting or solar powered lighting that would, because that is the way of the future, let's face it, the solar powered. So we have a committee discussion that is going to take place, and that is about referring to from council, and Councillor Moore did bring it up because our committee got into a situation where we had a delegation that we likely shouldn't have entertained. So those things in these committees, it's early times with the committees and they're growing pains, but that's what helps us figure it all out. Councillor, can you answer? Are you answering my questions, Councillor Engel? Okay, and you can talk too, but if someone can answer those first.
I would probably have to defer to administration for the cost, but we obviously they brought back doing blocks at a time, and we sort of explored doing one side of the street even, which would kind of cut it in half, or doing the other side. But I think Erhard said over time, a couple of things may happen. It may not get done. Someone may come along, a different council, and just nix it. We're not impacting the budget. Is one of the things we looked at. Is we are not taking this. This money is in economic development, and we viewed this as a positive economic initiative. That's why we chose that to do the entire street all at once so that it's complete. But I think Ethan may be able to answer what it costs per block because we absolutely did explore that.
Did you explore solar lighting? Solar powered?
We did not explore solar powered lighting. What we did was we were just making it consistent with what the rest of the light standards that were getting put in are all being electrified as we put them in. So we were just keeping that consistent.
Okay, are there any other questions? And I want it clear that I'm going to call the vote, but I want it clear that I like the idea of the Christmas lighting. I like the idea of phased in. I like the idea of exploring solar. So I do, and I will respond to Councillor Pogmiller's comments that this isn't a service level, it's an infrastructure item. So again, we go back to committees, and that's another item that'll be sorted out, I believe, going forward. And that if people could keep their voice calm and not angry, that helps the conversation go a little better. And for the reason though of the phase in, I can't support $52,000 in plug-ins. So Councillor Moore, I was going to call the vote. Do you have something to say?
Yes, I think there's been a lot of things that came up that I'm thinking about now. I'm wondering if we could perhaps defer this for a little bit until we maybe have some more information about the possibility of solar and phase in and things like that. It does sound like we don't have consensus, and I would really like not to have it just black and white, but to see whether we could move toward the kinds of things that we have been wanting to do for years, but perhaps not in a fell swoop. So I'm just wondering about that.
So a friendly amendment. Are you asking for a friendly amendment? Because you would have to if you want something different.
If they take it as friendly.
What would that be? Councillor Pogmiller?
I'm prepared to listen to what Councillor Moore has to say as far as an amendment goes. I just don't want this getting lost. And you know, I guess a frustrating thing for me is we can research and we can look at and we can do all kinds of things to death on this thing, and there'll be another Christmas go by with nothing getting done. And I just don't really appreciate having to do that. I think, I find it very frustrating when we delay and we go back and forth and research and so on. I'm sorry for being so blunt. I'm not angry. I am frustrated, though, with the process. And I think we can talk and talk and talk, and we never get anything done. So I would really appreciate it if we do a friendly amendment, that we have a timeline on this as to how we can go about getting this done. Because our committee worked very diligently on making sure that we weren't impacting our budget bottom line. Thank you.
So your friendly amendment to further explore
yes,
light.
I think that what I have heard from council all along is that we do want to enhance our Christmas decorations and our lighting. And we've done that already for a couple of years now. And so moving in that direction, but perhaps not looking at the possibilities for being able to move forward in a way that we're able to have consensus. I would ask that this be deferred back for further, and I don't know what committee it's going to, so I would just ask that this be deferred as an amendment with a view to improving Christmas decorations this year and going forward.
Ethan?
So just for process purposes, I'd recommend if the motion is to be amended to be deferred, I would recommend from a process point of view, since the originating recommendation is coming from the Performance Evaluation Committee, that it be referred back to them to explore further options in regards to as has been discussed.
Yes, I would do that. Is there not a motion already on the floor, and would they accept that amendment?
I think Councillor Pogmiller said he'd accept a friendly amendment.
Yeah. So I
do you want to read that back?
So I would friendly, is that a word? Friendly? Friendly amend my motion to defer this recommendation back to the Evaluation and Performance and Evaluation Committee to further explore other options.
Okay. All right. Are there any other comments? I'll call the vote then. All in favor? Thank you for that. And I'd like here, because I mentioned our strategic plan more than once, and I was supposed to have the motion last time, and they're all tied in. I'd like a motion to have administration bring back an update on the status of our strategic plan and all the items and dates. Would anybody make that motion? Councillor Windsor?
Mayor Hunter, I'd be happy to make that motion. Do you need me to word it, or can Luana regurgitate what you said?
Yeah, and I just think it's a good time to see what status our strategic plan's at. And we know that the pandemic may have delayed some things, but we're in 3.5 years here now. So, Luana, did you capture that?
How about this? Moved by Deputy Mayor Windsor to bring the strategic plan back to council for an update on the status of projects.
If I may, Mayor Hunter, I think it's to direct administration, Luana. It's to direct administration to bring back an update on the items in the strategic plan that are due.
Got it.
Okay. All right, I'll call the vote on that. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, we have item 7.6, the Disbury Curling Club financial relief. Councillor Engel?
Just want the motion? I think a committee looked at this.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Windsor, I guess you should speak to that.
Thank you.
And then we'll have a motion. Thank you for that. Councillor Bill? I get fatigued sometimes with long discussions.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. The Strategic Plan Committee looked at this. We had a presentation from Nicole and had a discussion about this over a couple of meetings. And the whole thing is that the curling club leases the curling rink from the town and ran into some difficulties because of the pandemic and some financial difficulties. And they're outlined in your background of your agenda. Having to reimburse membership fees and having difficulty with some other expenses that they had and needing some assistance with the lease and their utilities. And so what the committee, after a considerable examination, we first of all sent Nicole back with to gather some more information because the curling club was applying for 2 different grants. And they are successful in one grant and we're expecting them to be successful in the other grant. And so what we did, or is recommending to council, is that we approve the relief of the $9,887. That is a reduction of the 2 grants that one that they have received approval of, and the other one they're expecting to receive approval of, in relief of their utilities and lease obligations to the town. And so we're asking you to support that recommendation.
Councillor Moore, do you have any comments? Yeah, and I just want to say too that these are the kinds of things that the most grant are very amenable to, and it is a town facility, so the most grant was certainly an important part of that because it can absorb that, and it's a government grant. So thank you for that. Did you want to make the motion first, Councillor Windsor, and then we have Councillor Basil wants to speak after the motion?
Yeah, I guess I can do that. Thank you, Mayor Hunter. The council moved to approve the financial relief of $9,887 for the Disbury Curling Club for their lease and utility costs from December 1st, 2020 to March 15th, 2021, and further that this relief be funded with proceeds from the most grant with no budget impact from the approval of this item.
Okay, Councillor Basil, you had a comment?
Just one question, Mayor Hunter, is that we all realize that grants aren't written in stone and anticipating them can be somewhat precarious. So what happens if they don't get the grant? Are we going to carry on with the rest of the forgiveness?
What do you mean by the rest?
Well,
I mean, you mean the outstanding 6,000 or 5,600?
Correct.
That will have to come back to committee and council at the time. And the other committee members can certainly speak to that, but I think we would have to entertain another request for that amount that's outstanding if they don't get their grants. We have total faith in the federal CERS grant, Councillor Baswick. It's federal. Thank you for the question. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the vote then on the relief from the most grant. All in favor? Carried. We could start recording the unanimous ones. It's been a busy night and interesting. So we have the form of ballot 2021 municipal election. Item 7.7. Councillor Baswick.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I had requested that we put on the ballot speed limit change for Didsbury, and I don't see that represented here in the recommendations. I don't know if we had discussed that, if it was going to move forward or not. There's great interest in reducing the speed limit thoroughly throughout the town, with the exception of playgrounds and schools, to 40 kilometers instead of 50. And I don't see that as one of the things we would include on the ballot. So just a comment.
Well, that can be added into the conversation. That's what this is for, is to determine the items that council wants on there. I personally, in my opinion, I think this is a council item and not so much a committee item, because all of council has different thoughts on what ballot items they'd like. So I would like, though, on this motion, I think, to me, the train whistle issue is whether or not people want to train whistle in town. That's been the long-standing question. Some people like it, some people don't. And I think when we first started talking about this, it was to let the community decide whether the council of the day pursues cessation. And I would think that when all that information goes out in the preceding days of the election, that we would have the implications for people. Like, we'd have the information out there that if you vote yes for whistle cessation, this was going to cost. But the vote would be simple, that do you want whistle cessation? That's my thinking. Councillor Moore?
I'm not sure if the rules and have changed that much. I understood that there was something that was coming that would allow us to have whistle cessation. I absolutely want them gone, but when we looked into doing it before, even if we fenced both sides of the railroad tracks all the way from one boundary of the town to the other, and if somebody walked down the railroad tracks to Southridge, as they are prone to do, just one time, the whistles would start blowing again, so all of our money would be wasted. I don't know if any of those rules have changed. I would love them gone, but I'm not willing to pay the price. So that question is still going to be complicated for me. I'm sorry.
Ethan, I know that I give you a big document that I spoke with CPRL about extensively, with whistle cessation and fencing and cost and insurance, and you also, I'm sure, have done your homework, but I believe fences are no longer involved. I know that the study we had in November 17, it was going to be a three-way partnership in the costs, so the federal government and the provincial, and the 25% to provincial and municipal, and 50% to the federal government for the cost. I think the cost at the time was 600 and some thousand for all the upgrades to undergo whistle cessation. So do you want to talk further to that, Ethan? Do you have any other information?
Yeah, I can speak to that and why we came up. Now, obviously, council can form their ballot question however they want. There is guidelines as to that it has to be a clear question. And so the reason we recommended it take this form is, and I will speak first of all just to the mayor's point about the first information piece, which is, do people like the whistle or not? And that's a hard question to simply ask in that way, in a way that's clear enough. So that's why we thought, in thinking of that original idea of do people like the whistle or not, because we do hear from, we have heard from people that want the whistle to be removed, But we also have heard from people that say they like the whistle, that it's part of the feeling of Didsbury. They like having that whistle. And so there are mixed views in the town. And so we came up with this question because we thought that's probably the best way to give us kind of multiple information points. Those people that want to keep the whistle will, of course, vote no. But it also finds out, say, the people that it helps to filter out the mushy middle. Because there might be people that would prefer to have the whistle gone, but they're not willing to have the increased revenue or the costs to do that. But then it would also identify those that really want it removed and they're willing to pay more to do it, because there is some significant costs to doing this process. There is some information that some of it will be funded from different levels of government, but until we actually go through the process, none of that was necessarily guaranteed. So until we go through the process, we don't know for sure. And that's why we came up with this recommended question as a way to kind of filter out a few information points. A, who wants it gone and who doesn't, but B, because of the large potential investment it would take to do so, how badly do you really want it gone? And so that's why we thought we'd get a few of those questions answered with the one question. But again, this is just a recommended version of the question. Council can form their own question how they see fit.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Windsor?
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I guess I have a bit of a problem with the way the question is worded, and simply because it's just saying, are you willing to afford an increase in your tax? Now, that leaves things pretty wide open. Like, it could be a $2 increase and people might not feel too bad about a $2 increase. But if it was a $100 increase on their tax, maybe that's going to cause them to think a little differently. And so I think that if it's going to be stated that we're going to be looking at an increase of tax to do this, it needs to include the amount that should be expected, that people should be expected to shoulder in the event if they vote yes. And I think that would be only fair to the people that are making the vote and making the choice.
And that's something we'd have no way of knowing.
I really like that we're talking about the train whistle, though. It's good that we're here at this point so we can actually start talking to people about what the process is going to be. Ethan, I'd hesitate to say we wouldn't know that, because if we do base it on the study and we use inflation per se, to a maximum of, approximately to a maximum of, I do like the idea that they'd know that it isn't going to be a $100 hit. But I think if we get down to the road improvements too, that's a whole other story. How could we even say what that is? Because we know we have a road R&M deficit, and it's quite a hefty one. But so how much would that be? That might be a little harder. I would suggest maybe that they support a tax levy. And then we know with tax levies on roads, you talk to the people on that street and they decide at the time if they want that improvement, and then it goes on their tax bill. Either that or, I don't know how you identify which roads and all the people that would, it's a bigger question. Councillor Baswick?
Yeah,
I like the question.
Thank you, Mayor Hunter. I think we should do is make the motion. So this goes back to your committee to study, because discussing it now is kind of wheel spinning. So I think it needs more in-depth conversation, and the executive committee could do it a lot better than we can at this point. So could I make that motion?
Well, and I could. The reason I wanted the discussion, if there's any other ideas, I think our committee, and I'll speak up for myself as a committee member, I'd like to hear any other suggestions that we should be considering at that table, because we don't want to come back and then go back again and then come back. Let's, if there's any thoughts, Councillor Baswick's brought up the speed limit, so that could certainly go back. Are there any other items that council would like to hear from from our citizens on election day? So, having known that council had full input and full opportunity, you can certainly make that motion to refer the form of ballot 2021 question to the committee.
Okay, I will do that. I would move that council refer the form of ballot 2021 questions to the Strategic Planning Committee for a more in-depth look.
Yeah, or you could just leave it as it is. Maybe
Yep.
we don't want to go in depth.
Oh yeah, well you should.
Just kidding. I think there was a motion last meeting. We'll take that as information, but we don't want to